everybody, welcome back to the Damn Yankees podcast produced by Seven Ashes Productions. It is Tuesday, November 21st, and we are back to talk about off-season things. That is my brother, Ryan. Over there's our baseball dummy, Cliff, and I am Megan.
Right.
So I'm a little under the weather, so I'm clearly already messed up at least 8 times, so hopefully this goes well. Anyway.
Well, it's not their fault you got sick, dear.
No, it's your fault.
You can't prove that.
Yes, no, it's his fault. Yeah. So, yeah, we're back anyway. So that's what we've been doing the last 2 weeks, at least Cliff and I, being sick. So
that's not fun.
No.
It goes around. I had it. LG had it last month, so. You know,
oh yeah, it's making its way around. I think half the office is like out. So yeah,
changing of seasons doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and Megan's been a big baby about it.
Oh yeah. You weren't a baby at all. Okay.
Dignity.
And anyway, so in Yankees news, there were some transactions that's happened since the last time we potted, and let's see, all those people we talked about, including the Corderos and Herman, and I think there were other people
Ryan
in
Weber
there.
was thrown in there.
Yeah, Billy McKinney, I think he was part of that group. Those people were all, at the time they were outrighted, and then since then they have elected free agency. Another group very recently was non-tendered. That included Albert Abreu, Anthony Mysowicz.
I am not crying about.
Not crying about Albert Abreu at all. Very much, like, I was very excited to see that experiment end. Yeah.
No longer have to worry about Boone deciding that he's the guy anymore.
Oh yeah, I know. No, it's terrible. So, and Lou Trevino, which kind of expected. He spent the entire last season on the IL because he had Tommy John surgery. But in the previous season, when we got him via trade, he was pretty good.
Yeah, so for the few games that he was able to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of terms with like what do all these things mean, which I think we're gonna go into more detail about when we have more time.
Yeah, the quick thing I understood was non-tendering is being fired, outrighted is you've got more options. So we were confused. I was confused mostly. And so I think
I got it wrong last week too. I thought that was them when they outrighted them. I thought that was the firing, but
right. So yeah, it was a little, some of the terms that they throw around. So, we might do a podcast in the next week or so to try to define these a little better, use some real Yankee transaction examples to better understand what some of these things are. So. Yeah. Also, the only other thing I can think that happened was that Jake Bauers was actually traded to the Brewers, and we got in return Jace Avina, who's an outfielder, and Brian Sanchez, who's also an outfielder, and these are 2 minor league players, I believe. So, So things are starting to heat up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we also did just hire 2 new coaches.
Oh, that's right. That just today we hired the bench coach.
We hired a bench coach and we hired a hitting coach, but that was between the last pod and this one.
Right. Yeah. So the hitting coach was from the Tigers.
Yep, from the Tigers, and then Brad Osmus, who also formerly with the Tigers. I think most recently he was with the Athletics.
That was also with the Angels, I think.
Angels head coach. Head manager. In 2019, but most recently a coach with the Athletics, I believe.
Yeah, I think my initial reaction to Osmus being bench coach is good. We've got some managerial experience in Boone's ear. So that's all. I don't think the bench coach really I think it's good to have somebody in his ear, but I also don't think we should think too hard about the bench coach hiring. I know some people are mad that Willie Randolph wasn't hired, but I don't know. He's there. They haven't hired him. I don't know why. Hopefully nobody steals him as a manager. But
yeah. Anyway. I don't think it's that big of a... I think Brad Osmus is a good person to put into the bench coach, as like you said, like almost like an advisor to Boone now. So
and when Boone gets ejected, he's the manager. So
and I think it'll be a good thing for the Yankees. I don't know much about Rowson or however you say it.
No, I think there were
Sean Casey and.
Yeah, from what my initial things that I saw about him were that he wants like an individual approach. He was saying all the right things, that can't be cookie cutter. You got to talk to these people as, they all have different swings. You got to find what works for them. And then I think he worked in the Yankees minor league system. That he was like really loved. And I think he was there in 2016 because I remember a lot of like, well, and Judge, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know, who knows if there's things. Yeah. And then, the flip side was, well, he was the hitting coach for the Tigers last year and they weren't good. But I mean, we're talking about the Tigers, so
excuse me. You can only do so much with players that aren't good too. So
yeah. So he sounds like maybe a good mix between the last two that we had. And, not that I had anything really against Sean Casey, but he just kind of seemed like Boone's friend to plug a hole at the end of the season. And so yeah, I think, good hire. That's a positive. It's, again, nothing to write, any predictions about, but yeah. So
kind of, similar thing, nothing too surprising of, this is an awful transition, but the awards is another thing that happened, in the last
all the awards
2 weeks, were announced. And I don't think that there was any shock if you got Jeff Passan's cryptid tweet.
Oopsies tweet.
If you don't know, he basically tweeted out all the finalists, and every year when they released the 3 finalists for each award, they released them in alphabetical order. However, this time, and I'm sure it wasn't Jeff Passan's fault. I'm sure it was MLB sent him this list.
Probably just like copy
paste. Hey, here you go. And this is the finalist list, and they did not send it in order of the alphabetical order. They sent it in order of how many points they got. At least that's what the assumption is, because again,
all the first ones were everybody who won. So oopsies.
And even before they won, it was like, okay, these are the obvious front runners for each of these awards. So Ohtani, I think, was the biggest name overall, winning unanimous MVP.
Unanimous MVP.
I think Acuna also got a unanimous MVP, and did Cole won, but did he get a unanimous Cy Young?
I think I thought he did, but I could be wrong. That's a lot of unanimous votes, but you're right. I mean, nothing was a surprise.
Nothing was shocking at all. I think it did surprise some people, which I don't understand why. Volpe, what was he in this?
He was like finished 14th in Rookie of the Year.
Was it that low?
Something like that. 13th. It was kind of low, I think. Wow. Am I wrong? I could be wrong. Okay, yes. So, Gerrit Cole was a unanimous Cy Young Award winner. I mean, I don't know how else. Like, there was no one close. I know everybody tried to make the Cy Young Award close at the end and like try to say Sonny Gray or some of the others should get it. And
when you look at
their seasons, like Gerrit Cole didn't miss a start, and he was dominant in all of those starts. He was the plug in the Yankees, rotation to stop the bleeding almost every time. And, his home run, his home run itch thing that he's got was pretty much gone this year. Yeah, he got hit home runs off of, but not, it feels like much lower than in years past. So like he just had such a dominant year that it was, how could anybody else have been voted for first place for Cy Young? But
that wasn't it as far as unanimous votes for this. Both Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson won unanimous Rookie of the Year votes. So that's why too, like, even though the finalist stuff was dropped, and even though Jeff Passan accidentally
Yeah, it didn't shatter anything. Like,
yeah, it wasn't. There was no shockers. I could be wrong here, but it wouldn't surprise me even if the coaching awards were unanimous. I mean, it was just. I feel like each award was very clear this year, and yeah, I mean, big for Garrett Cole. I think we talked about it last time. One of the last pods that I know that was my favorite moment of the year was watching Garrett Cole's throughout this process, and my least favorite part was the fact that we wasted it.
Yep. We wasted Aaron Judge's MVP season last year. We waste Garrett Cole's Cy Young season this year. Hopefully we don't do that next year, and we can... our dogs are barking at something. It's distracting me.
My cat's coming up and wanting food or something. He only comes to me and begs for food.
When he's hungry. Excuse me, it's time. Yes, they're like that. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, there were no surprises. I think we even predicted anyway. Like, that's one prediction we got right in the beginning of the year, was that Garrett Cole was going to win the Cy Young. I think that was probably the only prediction we got. But,
yeah, that's about it. Yeah. And well deserved. You know, he's been one of the league's best pitchers for the last half decade at least. I think a lot of times he gets a lot of hate
for no reason.
He's a
little goofy, but
and part of it's he's a Yankee, and people want to hate on the Yankees. I mean, it's just the way it is sometimes.
Did you see his little? It was like his mic'd up day for one of the games.
Mm-mm.
Talking Yanks posted it, and it is gold. You should go watch it. It's from bullpen to all the way through the game. He's not pitching, so he's just having a good time. He's a goofball, like but I think he's like low key hilarious. So I don't know. You should watch. It's pretty funny.
I'll try to take a look. But I mean, he deserves it. And it's good to see him win, and hopefully he can produce more of that next year, and that we actually do something for it. I mean,
don't waste it.
I don't know how many more years of elite pitching he's got left, but I feel like, he's had his best year as a pitcher of his career this past year. He had more strikeouts when he was with the Astros, I think, for one of the seasons he was there, but ERA was pretty inflated that year.
He did, and he beat Guidry's season strikeout record last season, right?
Right, yeah. He did not hit that this year, but he was much better at preventing the home run balls as often. It was much lower.
What pitch did I see?
He didn't allow a lot of people on base as much.
What pitch? He added a pitch this year, and he said that it worked okay, and it was apparently very good. But I don't know. I'm really bad at knowing these pitches sometimes, and maybe it was like a cutter that he added, and it was like really great, and he's going to work on it or something. So he's always finding things to improve. He's like weird genius pitcher. So anyway. And the fawning over Garrett Cole, but that was like the one bright light in the season.
But I think we can transition now to the kind of the main topic of the day, which is free agency. It's heating up pretty quick. We didn't even get. I was looking at some other predictions from other people, like other writers and other websites that were making predictions, and you already have like NOLA on there, which everybody got wrong on one of the ones I saw. They were all predicting the Cardinals, and he's the first major person to sign. He goes back to Philly, and so that's big re-signing for the Phillies, for a team that's been able to be just basically a door away from the World Series. Big to be able to get him back. So he's the first big name off the board, but there's plenty of others that that we can talk about.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about, basically the big package, I think that, you and I and most Yankee fans want is a combination of Yamamoto, Juan Soto, lovingly being referred to as Yamasoto everywhere online because everybody wants both, and Bellinger, or I've seen recently another I think Japanese player, I forget his name. I think I said it to you, but it's like very recent today. Like
Hung Lee.
Yes, I think that's right.
Is he?
I think it's Hung Lee.
Clifton. There's a.
I think we're more interested in how he plays baseball.
We're just gonna call him Lee, okay? Hung Hu Lee? Did you say? Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
I sent it. I know.
Guys, I'm throwing out comedy gold, and you're ignoring me.
What are you saying? I think we're. Yeah, I don't think we want to hear what you're saying.
I'm ignoring Cliff. Okay. I don't know if you actually heard him.
I can't hear him, because he mutes his mic.
I said he was hung, and I said Dizzy. So I think we're more interested if he can play baseball.
He can play the outfield, and I think, right?
Yeah, he's a
so I this is very brand new person that I have not seen him. I don't know much about him, but everybody's saying please.
Now, to be fair, Yankee fans are notorious for believing that the Yankees should be able to sign every single free agent that exists, and if they don't, then the Yankees have failed massively.
So, yes.
Yeah,
careful, you might sound like Lee. Maybe it might be Young Hoo Lee.
Anyway,
apologies for the massacring of his name.
And I think there's another. Well, he's not Japanese. I think he's from the Korean, the KBO.
Yes. Okay. He's from the KBO. Okay. Yes.
I think the other is Hoo Lee from the KBO. I'm not really sure on him. I know that there's another pitcher.
Oh, well, I'm looking at a clip of him, and it's labeled as KBO. So I think that's where he's from.
Is that like BTS?
What?
When I say he was Korean, I'm throwing out K-pop band names.
Oh, okay.
BTS. I didn't hear you. Okay. I didn't hear what you said. Sorry. No, it's like their baseball league. That's what it's like.
I got that from context. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyway, lots of names are being thrown out.
Imanaga is the other guy.
Oh, okay. So
Shota Imanaga is another. He is from the Japanese league.
Okay. So there's a lot of names being thrown out right around now. This is just trade rumor season and free agent signing season. And for Yamamoto, he did just enter the market, and the teams have something like 40 days to sign him. Yeah. 45 days. And it's some day in early January is the cutoff day. It just started yesterday, I think November 20th. Either that or the 21st today, this morning.
So we at least have a deadline of when we'll see.
We'll know where he's going.
Yeah. Hoo Lee also just posted today. So that's why that was being talked about.
There's more talk. Okay. So so people are looking at him, as an option for the outfield, and maybe a potential if you can't get Bellinger, then you get him. I think what most people
I do think that there's a lot of potential for. Because I think we were talking about it earlier this week that, it could come down to a thing where the Yankees could trade for Juan Soto, but signing Cody Bellinger, who, I really like Cody Bellinger, but I also like Juan Soto more. So if the Yankees, not that they're going to tell us personally and ask for
right.
our opinion.
This is what we're thinking. Yeah.
But what are we doing then? Jesus.
If
you were here because you thought we were solving problems, you don't know. Yankee fans.
But if it did come down to it where we were asked, hey, we could get Soto and Bellinger this season, but because of the contract we're going to give to Bellinger, we'll only have Soto for one season. We are not going to have the money to re-sign him.
What do you? Yeah.
What would we want? Or we get him and like a Kevin Kiermaier or Hu Lee if the price is right, or things, somebody who can play the outfield, who may take a shorter deal with less money. We do still have Jason Dominguez potentially able to play next year. The biggest thing is that we just can't expect him to become this superstar. I mean, I hope he does.
Yeah, hopefully he's the same exact person we saw for those 8 days in August.
It was only 8 days, so we're hoping that continues to translate and that he comes back healthy and able to play. But anyway, Bellinger is definitely one of those guys that a lot of people are talking about. I would love to have him, but again, if it means not being able to sign Soto long term, I don't know. But then there's the flip side of, are we even going to get Soto? Are the Yankees even going to make the trade?
It's a big if, I think, based on at least recent history. Hopefully last season being the abysmal season that it was a wake-up call that we need to get Juan Soto. I mean, all the media reports are pointing to the Yankees as the best option. There have been some, things thrown out into the media that I think are, just negotiation tactics, like the Padres saying, no, we expect Juan Soto to be in our lineup in 2024, suggesting that maybe they hold on to him until the trade deadline. But everybody knows that they can't afford to re-sign Juan Soto at the very least. I mean, they just took out a
$50 million loan.
Yeah. $50 million loan. I think they said in September to finish out paying the year for their salaries for the players. So that's a problem. And they have a ton of contracts, as we've already talked about, that are huge. And apparently most of those contracts have no trade clauses attached to them. So really the only person that they could move that will take a lot of money off of their books for the next year is Juan Soto. So, I think it is funny that they're trying to put that out there. Then you have Brian Cashman or whoever put out into the media that, oh no, we're looking at, trading Verdugo trading Gleyber Torres so that we can get Verdugo from the Red Sox. So this is the time of year that crazy things end up hitting the rumor deck, because that's outrageous.
I don't know if you just saw the latest news on that front. Shohei Ohtani, I don't think it was him specifically, but hit one of his people, whether it was his agent or somebody in his group. He basically put out there to all teams that if you disclose any personal information or anything along the lines of our communication for the free agency season, he will hold it against that team. Basically saying, you're going to have to, I'm not going to sign with you unless you pay me even more money if you leak any part of these negotiations.
Yeah.
So
it's like almost like the Yankees are out because Cashman always leaks stuff.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, that's not going to work for the Yankees. He's not. I mean, we already knew it wasn't going to happen.
How many players have asked him not to leak stuff? Jeter, Judge, don't matter what your name is, he'll leak stuff to the media.
He's got to make sure his name comes out on top.
That's right.
No matter
Whatever
what
he can do to win that negotiation.
I still think Ohtani's going to end up with the Dodgers. It just makes sense. We've talked about it before, that they've cleared out players and money over the last year and a half to give him that space, give him that room. But I did hear something really interesting, that he's willing to sign for a team for a much higher AAV, talking like 50, 60 million a year for a 3 or 4 year contract, which opens the door for other teams. Like I've heard that like the Giants, that opens the door more for them, as well as a few other teams that may not have had that ability. And he's also willing to open up his market of who he would sign with if they were to take him on a lower. Like if he was going to he doesn't want a long contract with anybody outside of the West Coast, but he would be willing to do 3 years maybe for a contender right now for
a Texas or something.
For a Texas or for a Phillies or,
right.
I mean, those are just names I'm throwing out there, but like a contender for 3 years and
that certainly opens up. Yeah, it certainly opens up the people who would want in on that. Most
it's basically a way of again, there's all these types of tactics. So I mean, you can also look at it saying, Shohei, you can't really tell these teams that they can't leak stuff when you're willing to leak stuff on your end of negotiation tactics. Because I mean, that's really what it is. It's basically Ohtani telling the Dodgers, hey, just because everybody thinks I'm going to sign with you because I want to play in LA,
there's some other options to consider.
I'll take other
make
options.
Sure you sweeten
so you
the
better
pot.
give me that 14-year contract that I want.
So also what I heard with the Ohtani stuff is that the Dodgers are looking at like possibly getting Trout in a trade.
I have seen that, and I think that Trout should ask for a trade.
I think he should too. I mean, he's the best. Like we're talking the 2 best players in baseball, or at least top 3, and they're on the Angels, they're just awful. You can say what you want about the Yankees, but the organization is just awful. I mean, they had a chance to revive their farm league and try to put something else around Trout, knowing that Ohtani was going to bounce in the offseason by trading him at the trade deadline. They could have gotten so much for him. He was then the only thing worth getting.
They kind of did this like half all in. And then they basically said, nope, screw that, and DFA'd all those players that they waived all those players that they
That's right. I completely forgot that they did that. I forgot that the Yankees gave them false hope, and they swept the Yankees and thought that, oh, we're golden, we're good to go. And you're right. They picked up a bunch. It was like Lance Lynn and like a bunch of players that were picked up by the Angels, and then they were all released. A couple of
outfielders they got. I mean they
right around when like Bader was released and stuff. Ship. Like that was so that they as much as we want to say a disorganized cluster that the Yankees can be, the Angels are worse. So I don't blame Trout if he requests a trade, and
But some people are saying that Trout is just too loyal to the team that drafted him, and like he hasn't yet. I mean, dude, you've given so many years. You've given them, they're always like in the hunt. Like everybody believes, this is going to be the year for them. And they just don't do anything and say, hey, I've done everything for you guys. Now it's your turn to do for me and get me out of here. Personally, I'd rather see him end up with the Phillies. I mean, not that
he loves Philly, right?
He's
like
an
Eagle fan,
he's a Philly
right?
guy, yeah. I think he was either from or
he's
from around that area, and I think that would be cool for
him
to do. I saw somebody made a hypothetical trade package that include Nick Castellanos, as well as a couple other players that they could easily move, and it's like, man, it'd be pretty cool to see him and Trout and Harper together and see him play for his hometown. But
that would be pretty cool.
But
Trout deserves better than the Angels.
We're considering that. So that could be a potential trade. I don't expect the Yankees to make that trade. If there's any outfielder trade that the Yankees will do, it's for Soto.
Yeah, if the Yankees are trading for any outfielder, it better be Soto. Now, the pessimistic side of me does think that they're going to look at, some of the more bargain options aside from Soto, but I do hope that
that means that they would probably not do Soto and not do Bellinger, and they'll probably just sign Kevin Kiermaier. They might sign Jock Peterson, who I know we wanted last year, but has proven that he's not. I mean, he's not
right
Bellinger
now. Not worth it.
Soto, but he's going to sign those 2 guys and sign like David Robertson to a 1-year deal for our bullpen and say we had a really successful offseason. You're welcome. We did everything you asked. We got a lefty outfielder.
Right. Yeah, so I really hope that that's not the case. I have my optimistic side says they at least cut ties with Jake Bauers. They traded him, so they're done with that, and
that experiment's over, which is good. I mean, I like Jake Bowers for the times that he was there.
I mean, it's not Jake Bauers' fault. It's not Jake Bauers' fault that was Cashman's band-aid for Stanton to not be not producing, because we lack depth. But so
which I know we'll get more into here in a bit, but
So there's, the biggest hole we know is that we need to fill the outfield
lefty
vacancy
outfielder
that has been there since before last season, and
basically since Brett Gardner retired.
Yeah, pretty much. I did hear, speaking of Brett Gardner, that somebody compared Lee to somewhere between Brett Gardner and Ichiro. I was like, that's a big, first of all, I feel like that's a big gap, and also that's an interesting take. But anyway, things you see on Twitter while you're just scrolling mindlessly.
Yeah, I don't understand really what that means. I guess I know. I guess lefties.
He's lefty, fast, and an outfielder.
So he's not as fast as Ichiro, not as slow as Brett Gardner.
Maybe better contact than Brett Gardner, but how could you ever be better at contact than Ichiro? Who knows? But
in between those two guys.
That's right. I should have asked him. But so anyway, so there's a lot of options. Everybody hopes it's Juan Soto. We hope we're about to have a very nice Christmas present.
Well, and one of the things too that makes sense with the Juan Soto trade as far as the Yankees go, is the biggest names that pop up are the Yankees, I believe the Cubs, and Seattle when it comes to Soto for a trade. And I think Passan was the one who said it, was like, these are the guys who have what the Padres would want, which is ready now pitching, as well as an outfield prospect and something else. And so the Yankees obviously have a plethora of MLB-ready pitching that aren't really stars that they would be willing to trade. So, you got Brito, you got Clark Schmidt, you got, you don't have Montas because he's a free agent right now. But, you've got people who I think Warren was thrown in there. Michael King, because he's kind of like a
they stretched him out to be and his goal is to be a starter. So I can imagine.
So anyway, the Yankees have all these guys, as well as the Cardinals or the Cubs and Seattle. But apparently, Seattle and the Cubs are not as much in favor of making those moves, which obviously someone did so if my math is correct, there was a tweet. If my math is correct, Yankees plus Mariners plus Cubs minus Mariners minus Cubs equals Yankees. Yankees are getting Juan Soto confirmed.
Did my math right? I think it did. That's what I keep seeing too. He's gonna get all of our hopes up that obviously Juan Soto, the only place he makes sense to land is New York. So it's a done deal, right? Let's pack it up and go home. I really hope so. I mean, Garrett Cole seemed like a done deal.
Bryce Harper was going to be a done deal too.
True.
That's the flip side of Garrett Cole.
You got two. Yeah, you've got Bryce Harper was like a sure thing. Bryce Harper loved the Yankees. The Yankees love that when the player loves the Yankees. So Bryce Harper wanted to be a Yankee. There's no doubt. And then but Garrett Cole, basically the same thing. Today, tomorrow, forever. Little picture of him as a Yankee fan, and
it happened.
And then it happened. So I mean. And I think it happened before Christmas, sometime early December. So
it was pretty quick.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. So who knows? We don't know. Up to the moment, I don't, unless I see things from Jeff Passan or from a select few other people, I really don't trust the information. So for him to say like the Yankees are probably the one that makes the most sense for Soto to go to, like it gets my hopes up so high, and I know Cashman will probably dash it. And it's one of those things
where it comes down to it. Passan is talking about the on paper side of things. On paper, it makes the most sense that the Yankees have what the Padres want. Obviously, the Padres have what the Yankees want, Soto, a lefty power outfielder that is young.
Put your egos aside and get the damn thing done.
Yeah.
I want to see the trade has happened, and then like hours later, the Yankees have extended Juan Soto, and here's your 10-year package. Yeah. So that's what I want to see.
If we could, I mean, I think a lot of people say that Yankee fans are delusional, and as far as like don't wanting all these different people. I saw one where it came down to Yamamoto that we were delusional for thinking that he was going to sign with the Yankees. I don't really find
we're in the mix.
It continues to be talked about that he's there. I just don't think. I think it is delusional, and even though it's my dream off season that I would want of Soto, Bellinger, Yamamoto, and Josh Hader just for the hell of it.
Just throw him in there.
You know, as much as I would love that would be our off season, and the Yankees are back. You know,
yeah.
We know that that's not going to be the case.
Highly unlikely.
Best case scenario, we get 2 of those 4 guys, and I'd be very happy with Soto and Yamamoto, and we throw in Kevin Kiermaier into center field and hope that Jason Dominguez is a star. Later on. I mean,
Kevin Kiermaier is not the worst thing, but you want Bellinger instead of Kiermaier. I mean, Kiermaier will play a great outfield.
12 years and $360 million. I don't know if I want Bellinger for 12 years, $360 million.
I mean, right.
That's so it just depends on what, like, those things go into it, right? Like, I mean, all the Yankee fans wanted, they didn't want Bogarts, but they really wanted Trey Turner or
right, but
who's the one who Carlos Correa.
Right.
And not to say that those guys had bad years, and Carlos Correa is kind of in a different situation because he had all those weird injury. He didn't even get injured, which was funny, but like he just has like a weird MRI thing.
Yeah. Whatever people are seeing, whatever people are seeing, they don't like, and so you never know. I mean, you players are going to want long contracts. So things happen in the offseason. So
to go back to it, I don't know if we would have wanted Trey Turner. I mean, I love Trey Turner. I would love to have him up there. And I thought he had a good second half of last year, but 11 years, the guy's already 31, and his biggest attribute is speed. I mean, he's a good contact hitter, but his biggest attribute is his speed,
which declines so fast.
I was going to say that's the thing that's going to decline the quickest. So,
some trades are just not. You have to think about what their value is to the team versus what kind of contract they want. And I'd rather give the long years and the big contract to Juan Soto with an trade and an extension.
Absolutely.
So
that's my only concern when it comes to Bellinger. Now, there's some people who really hate the idea of signing Bellinger. They think that he's awful and he should be signed. One of the things that I saw, and again, this is free agency negotiation tactic stuff, but Scott Boras was asked about his slumps with the Dodgers and kind of what we saw this year with the Cubs. And he basically said, look, he had a season-ending injury in 2019. He came back during a short COVID season where he was not playing at full percent. He tried to play through it in 2021. Same thing. He was not at full health, and he finally got healthy again last season. And we got to see what he was able to produce. And basically also kind of insinuating that, which is true, Wrigley Field is not as beneficial to lefties as others.
Yeah. No, it's not. I think it's bad for lefties, right? Like it's a righty ballpark.
It's one of the worst lefty ballparks.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why, like, same with Juan Soto, these lefties have swings that are just made for that short porch. And, like, so it would be probably very, like, tempting for them, too, to want to play in Yankee Stadium for half their games every year.
And Cody Bellinger has Yankee heritage. So I would love – I don't understand the people who hate the idea of signing him at all. My only reservation is if he wants 12 years, $360 million, that's a lot as it is. Well, even an 8-year
that's kind of
is a lot, and it could prevent Soto from becoming Yankee.
Yeah, I think our priority.
I will choose Soto over Bellinger. As much as I love Bellinger, I love Bellinger as a player more than I love Soto as a player type. Like, I
sure, like you'd be a fan of Bellinger, and
I think Soto needs to grow up a little bit.
Soto is going to introduce a different element to the clubhouse too, which is important. I do think Judge will be able to handle that, and so we are lucky that we actually have a good leader on our team. But I think the priority needs to be Juan Soto. I'm hoping that it is in Cashman's head that the priority is Juan Soto, and figure that out first, and then everything else can fall in place.
Maybe we just need Hal to do what he's been doing the last year or two, and that's stepping in. I mean, honestly, like we
stepping
know
in
that
with Judge
is the one that he gave him the extra year.
Yeah.
That Cashman didn't want to give him. He said, "Screw Cashman. This is what we're giving."
No, we'll do it. Like, don't worry. What else?
And then I think the same thing with Rodon, the Cashman or Hal. I think Hal was the one who said, "Yep, give him the money."
Yeah, and I do think Hal meant it. But right, and I think we give him next year before we decide, how that whole thing is going to go. But I think Hal meant it when he said we're not done. That he thought they were going to get a left fielder. Like I'm pretty sure. So I think Hal's heart is at least in the right place. Maybe he needs to be the GM.
Over as the GM. It worked with George. So that's all I'm saying.
One other thing that came up with all the Juan Soto talks is like people yelling about where that what to Stanton,
do with,
what to do with Stanton. Stanton is clogging up the DH role, and he was terrible and awful, and so so there's been some Stanton discourse over the last few weeks.
Yeah, between fans and apparently some
and Cameron Maben.
Yeah,
so first for context, we've talked about Giancarlo Stanton not playing well this past year.
He's slow.
He's a little, he can't run, and his stance is really weird. David Cohn is concerned. So we're all concerned, but David Cohn specifically came out and was I'm kind of concerned.
Before we get too much into and not necessarily that we're going to be bashing Stanton, one of the things that but other people have. We'll get into one of the biggest names of who's been bashing Stanton in a second. But one of the other parts of the context is that Stanton, since day one Yankees, has always been very accountable to his own mistakes and his own shortcomings on the team.
This is my beef with
5 straight times in his opening
day. In his opening day, and he's booed.
And said, "I'd boo me too."
But yes, he did. And it very good, and absolutely what you should say to Yankee fans. But he also hit a home run, I think his first or second at bat or something in Toronto. We opened the season in Toronto that year. He hits a home run in that season, comes to Yankee Stadium, strikes out 5 times. That's not cool. Like, oh my God. But it's his first game at Yankee Stadium, and we're already booing him. So that's sometimes like, okay, guys.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not saying
you don't have to be happy about that.
Yeah.
But so that's been Stanton's experience throughout, since 2018, since being on, or 2019 was that.
So that's also part of the context too.
Yeah. He's always taken accountability whenever he sucks. He has said so.
Even with the injury offseason, he said, "I am looking into that. I cannot be injured."
He's like, this is not acceptable. I think he said.
Somebody said that. I don't remember if it was him or if it was someone in his camp or whatever it was, that he was going to be lessening his strength training over the offseason, so lifting less weights.
We need some more flexibility in
doing more yoga and flexibility training to help prevent the injuries.
Yeah, and hopefully that can help. And so he obviously wants to work on himself and stuff. So, that's going on in Stanton's world. He's accountable. He gets it. He sucks right now and he's trying to figure it out. Now you've got all these trade rumors, people saying, "Oh, just trade Stanton. He's clogging things up." And people remind you, "Oh, he's got a no trade clause." So you've got crazy things from fans. There was
and it's almost as if too, like fans say, "Trust trade Stanton," like this is MLB The Show, and like they
just do it.
I mean, I traded Stanton. I traded Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, to get who did I get from the Phillies? Oh, Trey Turner. Yeah, like that's what MLB The Show allowed me to do. I traded DJ LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, and a third player, like a minor league player, for Trey Turner.
Right.
Now,
so this isn't
what in real situation would the Phillies ever actually give us Trey Turner?
Right. I mean, it's not going to happen. And you recognize that his contract is limiting and it's limiting the Yankees' ability to do other things. And he's clogging up, quote unquote, the DH spot. And you think somebody else is going to accept these things. So people are crazy. And in response to that, someone else, tweeted that, saying you're crazy. All these things you're thinking about is not going to happen. And in that included Stanton wants to finish his career here in pinstripes. And so Cameron Maybin, former Yankee outfielder for a year, former Tiger. He's
also played with the
announcer
Mariners with Stanton.
I think he's one of those people who's played for like almost so many. Oh, he played on the he played in Miami.
So I
with
said
Stanton. That's right.
I said Mariners. I meant Marlins with Stanton.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, that's right. I forgot he's one of those players that's been like on almost every
Pretty
team.
Sure.
And I think you're right. I think they played in Miami together. And Cameron Maybin's a big player. Like he was a player. He's always looking out for players. And but he says like in response to Stanton wanting to finish his career in New York, he says, I agree with everything he said about all the other players, but except for the Big G part. And I'll leave it there. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but not so sure he wants to finish his career in pinstripes. I'm sure he'd like to finish somewhere that actually appreciates how he's handled every second of being in New York City. And now, while I may agree with that just sounds like Stanton's looking for a trade. So that's a weird thing to throw into the mix of what's going on in the offseason. And then you get Cashman the next day. I'm pretty sure it was the next day. It was very soon after this, saying things like, yeah, we know this, and this is after his presser, which we haven't even gotten into. So this is separate from his ranting press conference for the offseason. Already bad. And so then he goes into this tirade about Stanton and how they know that he's always going to be injured and they count on it every year, basically. I might be putting words in Cashman's mouth. You may know exact quote better, but
he said he basically said that Stanton is injuries are part of his game. It's part of who he is as a player. That was the quote.
Yeah, and Cashman knows this, by the way, and then he puts Jake Bowers, McKinney, and Willie Calhoun as his depth backup, by the way, which is just
outfielding. Yeah, and so at the end of the day, first off, we're going to talk about Stanton, like when it comes to that, and what Cashman could have said or should have said is, hey, last year, Stanton dealt with injuries. Unfortunately, he's been a bit injury prone since the contract, since the trade that we got him from Miami, and as unfortunate that is, we did not do a good job of
supporting him or
anticipating that and putting some depth so that he didn't just something along the lines of we need to do better to plan for that depth.
Yeah, it's like what he said.
Just says, Stan's injured and he's an injury prone guy,
and it's like he's just using it as an excuse as to why last season didn't go well. Well, I got Stanton for you, and he's not producing. He's always injured, so that's not my fault.
On as if not that it's not Stanton's fault that he gets hurt. Again, I think his
that's
offseason
his job to make sure his body's
mostly focused on strength instead of flexibility. He used to be actually a two-way player, a five-tool player. He had a lot of speed as a younger guy. Now we just talked about how you lose speed
34 and
as you get older, but I mean he got really slow, and part of that's because he focused. I mean, you can tell just by looking at him. Dude is like a bodybuilder.
He's huge.
So he doesn't have the flexibility.
His muscles have muscles. Yeah. So, and hopefully a new, thought process this offseason will maybe prevent some of these injuries. And maybe it doesn't. And maybe he's right to say we should, we're prepared for this. Then prepare for it.
But he
and
never make sure that they're to prepare for it.
He didn't. He's just said, like
this is part of his game. This is what happens.
Yeah, this is the Giancarlo Stanton that we have. So I totally get if Stanton feels like he's not appreciated in New York. And granted, last season was awful, but look at his postseason stats. And he has come through for us when it's mattered, before, and I think it's still in there. His ceiling is so high. I just, and if getting rid of
power.
If getting rid of him is the answer, that's fine. I just wish his time in New York wasn't so people booing him all the time.
I mean that's part of Yankee fans, but again, I think the biggest head of it all, Cashman, Yankee fans are going to be Yankee fans. There are a-holes on, and unfortunately.
Granted, his contract is huge, so produce. Yes, and that's what the Yankees are trying to. Yankee fans are trying to get across.
You said it before, though. Game 1 at home, after you just hit 2 home runs in the Toronto series, game 1 at home, and you're already booing him. That's not good,
Yeah. So Cashman puts his foot in his mouth a lot, who knows if Stanton's going to be involved in trade rumors? Don't be surprised, apparently, though, if he is. So we'll, be talking more about trades, I'm sure. As soon as trades actually happen, we'll have lots to say about them. Yeah. Cashman and Hal also had a press conference over, after the World Series winner. Yeah, before all of this. It was basically
a couple of days after the World Series was over.
Yeah. Usually they do it. Maybe. Yeah, usually they do it right after the Yankee season is over, but that ended earlier, I guess, than they were ready for. So they did it after the World Series, and they didn't do it together. Hal and Cashman, I feel typically do a press conference with Yes together as this at a table and very, official, calling on reporters kind of thing. Now, Hal did that. Hal had his presser over Zoom, so it was still weird, but he had his press conference over Zoom. It was very, very boring. He did his at noon the day they did it. It was kind of, what you thought, your bingo sheet of we're disappointed and, we've got changes to make in the off season. And
if we all were going to bet on which was going to be the bingo presser, I was going to say Cashman, but
absolutely. And so the only thing with Hal,
a good one, but
no. So Hal's was a whole lot of Hal's
was a lot of nothing. I think the biggest thing that Hal said that I do appreciate, but it was the minimum that he needed to say, was that 500 is not
anything to be proud of.
Is something to be proud of. That is the at minimum bar expectation that it's such an expectation that it shouldn't even be said that's an expectation. It's basically how he put it. I'm probably changing that wording, but basically that that's not even a thought. We're supposed to be over 500.
Right. Yeah, I think he called last season a failure, and so right, he basically said
said we failed. And for anybody to think, if anybody thinks anything different, that their egos are getting in the way.
And that kind of sounds like a shot at Cashman for sure. Yeah. Maybe for some other things we heard leak out also at Randy Levine. But
Randy and Cashman definitely don't like each other, and I think
Randy Levine is
trying to make everybody
president.
Happy. Yeah, president of operations.
Yeah. So, and there were rumors that Randy Levine like wanted Harper, and Randy Levine wanted more, more spending, and he was, like loosen the purse strings kind of guy, and Cashman was like, no, we can't do that. I'm paraphrasing this very poorly, but that was the gist of what I understood the beef between Cashman and Levine is. And maybe, Levine just wants every star to be signed, and maybe that's Cashman's deal. Like, you can't just sign every single star. We have the Padres to view as Exhibit A that doesn't usually work.
Right.
But so there's a beef going on between them. So, that comment about leaving your ego at the door or whatever he said was probably meant for the two of them.
Yeah.
And then, so Hal says a good thing. And then later he says, the thing, the reporters didn't even ask him about last season. And he was like, but by the way, like, last season was awful. And that was not, not okay.
And
failure
on top
at
of that too,
yeah.
like last season, he made it a point. What you're saying, he made it a point of saying that last season was a failure. Nobody asked him because everybody knew.
Because everybody knows last season sucks. But it's nice to hear that he actually acknowledged it and didn't say, but that's the 30+ season of going over 500. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I was really worried, honestly, that was going to be the take, is that, hey, we're, even on our bad year, we're still winning.
Keep your head up. Yeah.
Like, something along those lines. But I think he also did say a whole lot of nothing. Some of it is that we're not always privileged to every bit of detail, and I get that. Especially the Yankees are very tight knit as it is, and like you said, it is a business, so teams are going to be tight knit anyway. But there are just certain questions like, so what's your plan to address the staff? Oh, well, we're going to look at all aspects, and we haven't really looked at it fully yet, but we're going to look into it. We're going to look into that. We haven't really looked into it fully yet. Like, I mean, that was pretty much the answer. We haven't looked into it fully yet, but we're going to look into it. We want to make sure
it's a whole lot of just
everything
nothing.
is right.
So on the flip side of that coin, Brian Cashman schedules a time to meet with reporters at 5:00 in the afternoon.
Outside, like they're all
outside, like they were all.
It basically looked like Cashman was walking into work and all the reporters just.
Yeah, they're just surrounded Cashman, and so they're asking him questions, and like Cashman is basically going on a rant and berating questions asked by certain reporters. Joel Sherman.
I think he was the big one.
Yeah, I think that one was the big back and forth, and was like, he was just being a typical Brian Cashman arrogant asshole. But usually during press conferences, he's a little bit better. And
like what Hal was, very
more buttoned up, and that's probably maybe
and bingo, like bingo card cash. Exactly. Literally, we sent each other before this press conference. We were expecting it to be at 12, but he pushed his back to 5.
I want to do the you want to do this bingo
during work. And it was like, oh, we could take like a shot for every time he says.
Yeah, and I was like, we're gonna be wasted.
But I don't think. I mean, there was definitely certain lines that he said in there, but in a much more
rage-filled way. He went on a rant about how the statistics department for the Yankees is not as into everything as people think they are, and that it's the smallest, I guess, in the AL East or something, which facts came out later that by the numbers, their R&D department is has the second most staff in the league. So whatever definition he's using.
Hal did make a comment along that line too, though.
And it might just be the way they're like looking at it. Maybe in their research and development department, there's many more people in development. It is R&D. So maybe the research side isn't as staffed as it should be. But maybe that's a problem, not something to yell at all of us about. Like, maybe the problem this whole time is that
Hal made some like jab. There was an obvious jab at the Rays, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm pretty sure it was the Rays, because the Rays are just known for being overly computer.
Right. Yeah, they're
basically that he was like, yes, we have a guy in the dugout. Or no, he said we do not have a guy in the dugout going over, or did he?
I think he was basically
there was a
like
guy in the dugout that gives advice based off of like the research side of things. Basically, the computers say, hey, against lefties, this guy is really good. And so
but we don't make every baseball decision based off of the computer.
And Boone makes decisions based off his experience as well.
Like,
and then he said, well, yeah, that was already kind of funny. But then he said that there is a coach in the AL East who gets all of his advice from a computer. But I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
That was 100%
oh
Kevin
my
Cash.
God. Yeah.
100% Kevin Cash.
They really want to be and also hate the analytics side of
stuff.
The Rays baseball.
So anyway, Cashman said the similar thing, just much more aggressive.
Yeah, everything about his press conference, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, and he
at one point he said, "What? We're a good fucking team, or we're
a pretty good fucking team," is what he said, and you're like, Have you seen the standings? Can I show you where your pretty good fucking team finished last year?
And I think he was trying to talk about the staff in general, like not necessarily the players, because I don't think he thinks that his players are very good, as per the Stanton stuff. But yeah, he basically was like, I mean, he was shouting and cussing and then just being just very unprofessional as well.
And so aside from, we did get some tidbits of, Peraza, there was no spot for Peraza at all, ever. Even if he was hitting right out the gate, there was no spot for him. So basically they were saying we were all in on Josh Donaldson because I can't check my ego anywhere. And I had to, that had to work, even though he was awful and it didn't work. And
I mean, we've been saying since the offseason that Donaldson needed to be DFA'd. We had, Boone trying to gaslight us into believing that we'd be crazy if Donaldson didn't have a major comeback season. But yeah, Peraza, there's no spot for him. And so if that was the case and we had traded him this year for like pieces that we needed, then I've been like, okay, cool. Like at least but we have Peraza just sitting there. Meanwhile, you also acknowledge the fact that Stanton just gets injured all the time and we don't have anything, like there was nothing we could do about it. Yeah, there was. It's called trading. Yeah. Like your pieces that you're just holding on to for no reason.
Right, yeah.
To get the
Let's ask Andujar how he feels like being out in he just signed with the A's. Yeah.
Yeah, no longer.
We could have gotten more for him, and you see where he's ended up, but you held on to him for so freaking long because you saw such potential, and now he's signing a 1-year contract with the A's. So he kills me.
Yeah, we could talk on and on about Cashman and all the things that he says. I think Hal came back with something along the lines of I just love his passion. Talking about Cashman.
Yeah, and that was asking about because Cashman has this
dropped the
tirade.
Multiple.
Oh yeah, and that's probably, and everybody says that's why he just met with the reporters outside the building, because if that was a official press conference, he wouldn't have been able to drop as many F-bombs as he did, or any. So he does that, and then he makes those comments about Stanton, and so Hal, of course, is asked yo, what's up with Brian Cashman? And he kind of seems like he's having a meltdown. I mean, that's what I would have asked him. I don't think that's how it was asked, but it certainly looked like Brian Cashman was having a meltdown.
Fire him?
Yeah, because it looked like it was his job was on the line. That was how
that's what everybody was interpreting it, that he.
And maybe it is. Maybe Cal has told him in the background, look, we're family and all, but you need to shape up because last year was awful and I don't like this. So
I mean, I hope he does, because this Brian Cashman's my brother BS is just BS,
It is. I mean, I get that you've grown up with him and, whatever, but that's kind of part of the problem. Brian Cashman thinks he can't be fired, that he's part of the royal family, and, he cannot go anywhere. And if that's the case, I really just wish they would fail him up and make him some VP of something or other and put some new blood or somebody who understands how to use analytics better. And I don't know if it's his fault, who knows, but our use of analytics is very clearly an issue.
Not working.
And every player says it. You know, we've got Cole and you've got Judge mentioning these things, that they're paying attention to the wrong kind of stats.
That was the other thing with Hal's presser that I thought was interesting. The amount of times that he said that he is being talking to Judge rather than talking to Boone and Cashman about things for this offseason. Yeah. Not that he didn't say that he wasn't talking to, like, I'm not talking to these people, but the amount of times he said, yeah, Judge and I have talked about this. Judge and I have talked about that. Judge and I were working on, fixing this.
Well, and there was also, they asked him about Boone and bringing Boone back, and Hal said something along the lines of, like, he asked all these people in Pettit, the organization. You talked to Judge. Yeah, and so he asked these people who are players or former players, should we keep your manager, the person that you speak to every day, the person that, is your leader in the clubhouse? And they all say yes. And people were so mad that he was getting advice from people lower in the organization. And it's like, that's a good thing. Like, I don't like Boone at all, but the people that he manages need to like him. They need to respect him at the very least. And it sounds like he does. And the people, his peers, say he's the best decision to,
if Judge says that Boone is not the problem, which he's never, by the way, said that Cashman's not the problem. No, he's only ever said Boone is not the problem.
So it's like, it's hard for me to
maybe Brian, maybe Hal needs to start asking Brian Cashman, or start asking Aaron Judge,
what do you think
of Brian Cashman?
Yeah.
I think he would get a much different response.
Especially after how the free agency was handled, or not free, but the looming free agency last year was handled. So, just like he did with Jeter, he disregards players and they're and doesn't treat them with respect, and so you get what you get. He is an arrogant asshole. I mean, I get he's the GM of the New York Yankees, and you probably have to be a bit of an asshole, but God, is he an asshole? I mean
like you said, you kind of expect it to some degree, but you kind of just expect them to be assholes to the media only, but not to the players, or at least to an extent, not the players. Like,
and you at least gotta kiss the fans' ass. I mean, Hal does a good job of kissing the fans' ass. He knows where his money's coming from. Brian Cashman though is out.
I watched the presser, and I left there being like, I respect Hal, and I'm sure part of it is that Hal's got
gotta sell those chicken buckets
for things. He's got to make his money. But at the same time, he, like you said, he knows when to be respectful. Cashman does not. Cashman doesn't care. And in some cases, you don't always want somebody to care, but at the same time, like, care a little bit. Like,
I mean, he just does it in there's a way to do this that is just not what he's doing. Like, he's just coming off as combative and defensive.
Everything, like, the way he views everything is that because they had a plan with it, or they had a thought of how it could work or should work, means that he's absolved from any fault. That because Josh Donaldson
doesn't work out, that's not his fault. The paper said that he should have worked.
He hits barrel percentages very well. He is very good at doing all these things. He obviously could be an MVP again. So therefore, I'm not at fault for him being terrible.
But we like Gio and everything, but he's no Josh Donaldson. Oh my God. I'd miss you, Gio.
He's one that I would love for us to re-sign, but again, it's not going to happen because someone's got too big of an ego to come knocking on his door.
We didn't really talk about it, and we don't really have time to, but we also sort of kind of have a hole at third base, but not really. But like, the hole exists because they won't do anything about Peraza, but also because we've got a couple of old guys in the infield that can't, DJ LeMahieu can play a great third base, but can he last all season there? And then he doesn't really play the best first base, but Rizzo does, and but he's in trade rumors, and I don't know. So while I don't need them to clog up the infield anymore, I do need them to figure it out. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's less of a concern, but outfield first, and then
figure out third base.
Let's
I agree.
Yeah, let's stop the roaming infield, the merry-go-round of players in the infield.
Utility people thrown into different positions, but
we'll
I mean that's kind of what we're looking at in a nutshell as far as what the free agency market looks like, what the Yankees could potentially get at the best case scenario, and we talked about the worst case scenario. Hopefully, it's somewhere in between, leaning on the side of best case scenario. Just get us Soto. I think someone said trade for Soto, Cashman, and everybody shuts up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is exactly what will happen. Shut up the fans and just do it. Just get Soto, and everyone will be like, thank you so much. And Christmas sales will be through the roof. Like, why would you not want to get this done right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think most probably teams want this to be done so that they can all
move on. I mean,
move on, and
there's
it's the Judge thing.
It's Judge last year. Judge held up free agency because outside of the pitching market, teams did not want to put money to a player if that meant that Judge was going to end up.
Yeah, if you had a chance to get Judge on the team, let's try for that, and we'll worry about shortstop later. Yeah. But so same thing this year. We need to figure out the Juan Soto thing, and hopefully,
I think Soto, a decision happens on Soto before Christmas. Either a trade is going to happen, or Padres are just going to say no.
That is kind of the kind of icky thing, right? Because it's it's a trade, and so it could be drawn out. But
we'll I just think that the Padres are not going to let it draw out. If
hopefully not.
If it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed, they're gonna say, "Yep, this is the team we're going to," or they're gonna say, "Stop asking, call back in July."
I mean, I guess if we start seeing a bunch of people like Tatis or Machado or whoever opt out or enact waive their no trade clause. That's what I'm trying to say. Then maybe we know Soto might be staying, but all signs point to Soto is leaving, and so we'll find out hopefully soon that he's a New York Yankee.
So that's kind of the free agency and trade potentials, and I'm sure the Hal and Cash sagas of ranting and BSing on them is
never over.
Yeah, never over. It's always going to be there. So if you want to hear more of this, of us ranting about those two and the Yankees' failures, or you want to hear about hopefully it won't be too boring, but the sometimes boring ins and outs of what transactions
the definitions of what non-tendered means. That's going to be a really fun episode. No, we'll make it fun. It's fine.
Yeah. And we'll do a lot of other fun things over the off season as well. So continue to listen to us. Thank you for listening to us for the last hour plus. And
plus.
Yeah, definitely.
We are getting scolded.
I don't know. Are we about 11 minutes over, 10 minutes over at this point?
I stopped counting when I told you it was time. So
okay. Well, that was 11
it's about 10
ago,
minutes.
So.
So sorry, but thanks for listening for an hour and 10 minutes.
Thank you for listening to us rant and probably about the same things that about half of our episodes are ranting about. And follow us on Spotify and YouTube. To hit the notification buttons so that way you can stay up to date. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Yanks_pod. I said that whole thing wrong. I'm sorry.
You want to give that another try?
Yeah, take two. Follow us on Twitter or X and Instagram at DamnYanks_pod, and then on Facebook at DamnYanksPod. And if you're for some reason on Threads, which I don't know who actually is,
we are.
Follow us.
We are there.
We are. So follow us there too. Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of you. You're a Threads person. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was
Twitter still exists. I mean, it's baseball.
X,
Twitter didn't. Oh yeah, X. Baseball X
everyone
is the
you
same.
Guys follow on Twitter is on Threads.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah. Yes, because by default, the Damn Yanks Pod account follows them also, and it lets me know they're like, hey, they're on Threads.
What?
That's cool. I just could not personally both tweet on X and then be like, okay, now I gotta go tweet. Go through.
Yeah, they would have to connect the apps or something, which that probably won't happen. And I'm just I'm social media app fatigued. I'm old. I don't even have TikTok.
Well, here's what's interesting. Threads has no hashtags.
Oh, how do you tag things?
I don't know.
Oh,
maybe by the wording,
it's an algorithm. It is an algorithm anyway. You don't really have to tag stuff for stuff to end up in your feed on X anyway. So
yeah. All right. Anyway, this is an X. We're now a.
Didn't think you'd get a social. Yeah, I didn't think you'd get a tangent about social media, did you? If you stay for the after show.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyway, thanks again for listening to us, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.